Mike Empey, the offensive line coach.
Are you sure it's Mike?
Oh, I mean, wait, who is behind Ty Detmer's face? Yes, it is Mike Empey.
You know, I hope Coach Empey can get those linemen in shape.
Was that Charles Barkley or Ty Detmer?
It's a hybrid.
Hey, that's
Carl Malone.
That's pretty good, Mike.
Carl Malone.
Welcome back to the show, man.
Good to be here. Thanks. Glad I could shame you guys into letting me come back on the show.
Yeah, you complained your way onto the show. / had 2 notable signings. So let's talk about Tristen Hoge in a second. But first, of course, your son James. What went into his transfer from Utah to BYU?
Well, when my son was going through the recruiting process, he took trips. We went on unofficial visits. We did everything that a recruited kid does, and at the time, as he felt the most comfortable with his opportunity to go to the University of Utah. And at the time, I was his high school coach. And while he was on his mission, I changed jobs, and I was here, and he saw the energy and the things that were kind of going on with our program and what we're doing. And I think that, that was just appealing to him, that, he would have a chance to come to BYU. And he didn't ever not like BYU. He just chose somewhere else. And so, over time, he just had contacted us and said, hey, I just really feel like I want to make that change, what needs to happen. And we got it done. So
I know you're big on letting your children do what they want to do. And we've talked about this on the golf course, things like that. And so, I mean, what was that conversation
like?
Well,
in relation to choosing where they want to go to school.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting because he was on his mission, and he was trying to be a good missionary and focus on that. And I wanted him to focus on that, and his mom, and we felt like, hey, when the time is right and he feels like, he knows what he's going to do, we'll just support whatever he wants to do. And he contacted last Mother's Day, not this most recent Mother's Day, but the one before, in part of our conversation, he just said, Dad, find out what I need to do. I'd like to come to BYU and be there. And so we reached out and talked to Coach Whittingham, and I will tell you, Coach Whittingham was first class all the way. He was supportive. He didn't want James to be distracted on his mission or have to worry about whether or not he would get a release or anything like that. And Coach Whittingham was first class with the whole situation, and they granted his release. And so, for James, he just wanted to kind of quietly come home, get enrolled in school, and then, whenever we made the announcement after he was already home from his mission, and he had already kind of gotten in school and had the wheels rolling that direction. But I was proud of him for how he handled the whole situation and focused on his mission, and I was grateful to Coach Whittingham and also to Coach Satake. When I interviewed with Coach Satake, one of the first things we talked about was James and how important he would be as a recruit in this program. And Coach Satake had recruited him at Oregon State as well, so and had coached him in youth camps, at Utah and all those things as James was growing up. So we just all had a lot of familiarity with each other, and it was just a situation that came around, and it worked out in a way that we're happy. Now we got to go to work, right? Now we got to go to work and make it all be worth something.
I like that Kyle Whittingham's the anti-Bill Snyder, who recently would not let a kid go to like 32 schools. Like, what's up with that, right? So, and Norm Chow with Michael Wadsworth wouldn't let him come to BYU. So that's nice. And BYU's reciprocated typically in the past where, hey, yeah, we're going to give you a release and we're going to be cool about it, right? So now James can play right away, right? 4 years. Mm-hmm. What's typically how you like to handle return missionaries? Do you like them to have a redshirt year and then kind of learn the offense and that?
Yeah, we have a new player development protocol that I don't know if that's really what it's called, but that really sounded good.
It sounded cool.
Yeah, and they come in and they kind of get into the new player, development system. Coach Tafisi takes them, and they start with, with exercises and things that, understanding you just came from Portugal and not from Vasa Gym in American Fork, and you start with the basic stuff, and you get them up to speed and try to prevent injury and get their bodies moving again, and all of them. And so he'll spend time in that program over the summer, and then we'll see where all these new guys. I anticipate most guys that come home from a mission are going to need some development, especially at offensive line. So I anticipate that he'll redshirt and develop, and next spring, try to be in the mix to compete to actually play. But as far as eligibility, if he doesn't have to sit out a year transferring, which is the case with Tristen transferring, he would have to sit a year because he was just enrolled at Notre Dame last semester. So
he used his red shirt already as well.
Yeah, and he's used his red shirt. So, that's typically how, the transfers coming from a mission are a little bit different than the transfers when you're just going from school to school. And then there's a graduate transfer. And if that's what Kean Norman and Andrew Eide did a year ago, where they were graduated, they had their undergraduate degree, and the NCAA allows them to transfer without any penalty once they've completed their undergraduate degree. So, we've had in the changeover here, and over time, probably lots of times when Bronco was here and other coaches were here, somebody wants to change schools, and you just follow the rules and make sure that you check all the boxes and do it right. And generally, when a coach doesn't want to give a release or is angry about a kid leaving, it has probably more to do with feeling like he was recruited away or somehow has undercut his program. I think when there's good communication, and then everybody wants just what's best for the young man, and if that's what the young man wants to do. How miserable is it if you made a kid stay in your program and he hated it?
That makes no sense to me.
Yeah,
it's not good for anyone.
I have no respect for those coaches. I have no respect for those
And
coaches.
so I think the only time a coach is going to, really be concerned about not granting a release is if he feels like somehow he wasn't communicated with, or there's been something that hasn't been right in that situation. And I understand that too. I get it. So.
Offensive line coach Mike Empey with us on BYU Sports Nation, the third man to impersonate Ty Detmer in Studio B, I believe. And not bad. Not bad.
It was awful.
It was like caramel. I thought it was a good caramel.
Let's talk about Tristen Hoge, who you brought up as the Notre Dame transfer, #1 center coming out of high school in Pocatello, Highland High School guy, 4 stars. Why did he want to play football at BYU and potentially give up a year unless an appeal is granted, all that business?
And you bring up the appeal. I've had a few people ask me about that. Just in general, it's a standard thing. You're going to transfer, you're going to appeal to say, hey, would you guys let me transfer without a sitting for a year? Everybody's going to do that, right? So the appeal is not anything that has to be anything other than it's kind of just a routine thing in the transfer. And it's not granted very much at all. So, but there's a lot of connections from Tristen and BYU. Obviously, his cousin Bo is on the team. Tristen's dad and Bo's dad are brothers. And many years ago, when we were all little boys in Pocatello, Idaho, me and the Hodge boys were buddies growing up on the same street.
You grew up in Pocatello?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So me and
you go to Highland too?
Yeah, I'm a Highland Ram.
Wow.
So me and Tristen's dad grew up together on the same street, and his uncle Merrill. Their dad was my bishop. We've known each other for over 40 years, and so everybody kind of knows everybody. And when Tristen, we got word that he was considering making a move. And we just let them know that if he wants to get a release, we can communicate with him at that point. But until then, we can't. And the next thing you know, we got a call, and there was a release. And he said, "Listen, I want to make a move, and this is what I want to do." So it was cool that he chose us. We really didn't want to get into a giant recruiting of one of the top players in that position. He wanted to be here. They made it known to us, and they followed all the rules, and we made it known to them that there's a spot if he wants to be here. So, I would say one of the things to remember is that all the high school ratings and all the rankings and all those things, they're great for a high school kid coming out. Now you're talking about a college guy transferring, and he's got to do a lot of work to get on the football field, and he's got to learn everything. And physically, he looks great, and he's been practicing and playing for 3 years. So I would expect that. Him getting up to speed is, it's a process, but it shouldn't be overwhelming process. And he'll most likely have a year to be ready to. So we should see him next spring, competing.
Is he a potential replacement at center since you have kind of two in the two center seniors in the 2 deep there?
Yeah, potentially. I I have 3 centers in my 2 deep. I got Tooney at right guard and Tijon at center and Kean Norman at left guard are all seniors. And so we'll just kind of we'll do what we need to do for this season, and those guys are going to do a good job for us. And then I'm cross training a couple of guards that can play guard and center. And then we have James coming in who's going to learn center and also play guard. And then we have another offensive lineman that comes home from a mission, Haas. He gets home for the mid-year in January, so he is a center. We recruited him as a center. So there's depth coming.
Kid, if I
Yeah,
remember.
yeah. And there's depth coming at that position. But Tristen has played guard and center, but he's also the type of kid who could play tackle, I think, athletically if we needed him to. And I just think we'll just figure kind of all that out as we get started. It's fun to look at it on paper and shuffle it around, but until we get on the field, I think all those things kind of naturally find their position.
You've got some guys, and you've got 81 days to solidify that 2 deep. We're looking forward to it. Coach, it's great to have you back at Studio B.
Hey,
Thanks for having me.
Your shout-out worked. You got on.
Yeah, appreciate it. I'll do it again in about a month.
Yeah, just shame us, and then you'll get on the show.
Right. Thanks, you guys.
You got it, man.